What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Let me entertain you. Are you not entertained? Make your next thing a big one. Speaking of entertained, Cory M Coons is going to be on the program today. Who's Cory M Coons? What, have you been living under a rock? Well, if you don't know, you're going to know a little bit more in the next few minutes, so stick around. This week's shows, I have two public shows this week as we break out of coronavirus quarantine, COVID-19 quarantine. I'll be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas on Friday and Saturday night. Yeah, I'm usually only there on Friday nights. Yeah, the video dance party karaoke jam. They got the full bar, the kitchen's open, pool tables. Friday night, they have a pool tournament. So if you want to try to make some money, try your hand playing pool, you can do that at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can. Yeah, that's right. While you're waiting to sing a song on stage right next to me. Yeah. Now, wear a mask on the way in. Wear a mask while you're walking around. And while you're sitting down having your drinky drinks and having your good food, you can take the mask off. Yeah. All right. And on Saturday night, I'll be there once again, starting at 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the a.m. Saturday night, full bar, kitchen's open, except there's no pool tournament. So those 10 diamond-style professional pool tables are there for your pleasure. So you could play some pool like the real pros do on the professional tables. Hey, they're diamond tables. I don't know exactly what that is, but the pool players seem to enjoy it. They look cool to me. They look like professional tables. So, yeah, you could do that at the Rab. Conway, Arkansas, Friday and Saturday night. Both shows starting at 8 p.m. Be there. All right, party people, let's get into it with Cory M Coons. Now, I got him on Skype, so if you're listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version, youtube.com/user/KeysDan. And yeah, you could see his handsome face right next to me. Yeah, he'll be right there. All right, party people, let's get into it with Cory M Coons. Skyping Cory M Coons now. There he is.
How you doing, Dan?
It's so good. Cory M Coons in the house. Rockstar. I mean, that's a small box to put you in. You're more than a rock star. Even your Facebook says a whole lot more. You're a producer. I've seen you behind the controls. I've seen you, seen some pictures of you doing your thing. I've watched a lot of videos over the last day or two of you on your YouTube. Man, your YouTube page is fantastical. But I get maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. It's Cory M Coons hanging out with me, Keys Dan, on the What Makes You Famous podcast. Give the people a little idea of who you are.
Well, I'm basically a songwriter, musician, singer-songwriter, musician from Ontario, Canada. Basically grew up here south of Ottawa, Ontario, the capital in Canada. I started playing music, I guess, about when I was 13 years old. I started playing bass guitar, and I guess about the 7th grade, and got into high school and joined a couple high school bands and played some, some school functions and some Christmas assemblies and stuff like that. And we got our feet wet playing some cover songs and all that sort of stuff. And
let me stop you there. Writing my own song. Let me stop you there. Why would a man of 13 pick up a bass guitar rather than a regular 6-string guitar? What made you choose the bass?
Well, honestly, I always played guitar too, but I started on bass because there was a couple neighbor friends of mine up the road from where I live And one was a drummer, and they were brothers. One was a drummer, and one already played guitar. So I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna pick up the bass. The bass was open, so that's kind of how that got started.
Well, what's the difference between playing I'm not a guy who I have guitars in my vicinity. I can look and I can see guitars, but I don't know how to play more than a chord or two. But what's the difference between playing a regular guitar and moving over to the bass? How hard was it to transition?
Well, not really. I mean, the bass is, most basses are 4-string, but obviously you have 5 and 6-string basses too. But I mean, I played a 4-string bass, and you're really holding down the foundation of the songs with the drummer, and you're doing, holding the groove together. And obviously you're playing single notes most of the time on a bass, as opposed to guitar. You're learning chords and structures and strumming and all that kind of stuff, and then getting into some of your own little soloing things as you go along too. So, I mean, it wasn't a huge transition. I always played guitar, like I said, because I wrote songs. So when I was playing bass, I would come up with little creative riffs and stuff on the bass, but then when I would go to write melodies and lyrics for the songs, I'd switch over to guitar, and I would kind of, the chord structures would come much easier that way. So
even back then at 13, you were writing songs for your little band that you had started up, or that you got into with your friends, with your mates?
Yeah, I would say once I hit high school, about 15, I probably was starting into writing my own little melodies and little songs and stuff like that. And interestingly enough, a song that I just released this year, which had my daughter singing harmony. My daughter's now turning 7 in April, and that song is 30 years old, and it was actually one of the first songs I ever wrote in high school, and it was called Far Away. So I went back this past Christmas, and we recorded a version of it just acoustically with myself and my daughter coming in like 30 years later singing the harmonies with me. It was just amazing to kind of have that sort of thing happen again all over,
How beautiful is that your own offspring is singing along with you to something that you wrote so long ago, before she was even a thought, before she was what they say in the South, a gleam in your daddy's eye,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. I know there was a thing back in the 90s where some of the offspring of the famous singers that had since passed on were singing with their fathers. I think Lisa Marie Presley did one with Elvis, and then what was it? Natalie Cole did one with Nat King Cole. I think this is much better. This is much better to do one with your daughter while you're still in this mortal coil. Yeah, that's a better idea. So at 13, you're playing with your boys. What was the music that was coming out of Ottawa, and what year was this?
Well, early high school days, I was right into the sort of hair band days of the LA scene, like your Poisons, your Motley Crues, your Bon Jovis coming out, all that sort of stuff. I first was raised on more or less country music in the very early days of my life, listening to my mom's old stereo growing up, in young days.
Well,
country music.
Example, what songs?
As far as the very beginnings, you mean?
Yeah. With mom's, what was mom putting you into? Because I remember my mom was buying me my first records and 8-track tapes. Kids, look it up.
Yeah. Some of the first artists I can remember, well, the very first probably 45 I ever played on her stereo was Fun, Fun, Fun by the Beach Boys. So I really got into the Beach Boys at a young age. And then, country stuff like The Gambler and Coward of the County from Kenny Rogers and Johnny Cash stuff. I was familiar with all that growing up, listening to that stuff through my mom. So,
see, now you're talking. I mean, mine was, I think my first record that I can remember was Gord's Gold, Gordon Lightfoot. And that kind of oh my goodness, that record really could change my life. But let's see, the first 45 that I had was a Bee Gees, Gotta Get a Message to You, and I think on the other side, if I can remember the flip, I remember it was Gotta Get a Message to You by the Bee Gees. But man, I love your style. I love that you remind me of. Well, another Canadian. I'm not sure how close you've been, but Geddy Lee has that similar tone, of Rush. It's just so so good. But then you bring like a folk music into it, because it's the music that at least I've seen and I've heard is really guitar driven. Well, because you're the guitarist, of course. That's where you transitioned into since being a lad of 13. But I know I stopped your story a little bit because I wanted to know what you were playing back then and why you changed, why you picked up the bass first. But continue. You were in Ottawa at 15 writing songs with your boys. What kind of songs were you writing? Was it that song, the Far Away song that you sang with your daughter?
Yeah, that was one of the first ones we wrote, and then we would just collaborate on different ideas. Some of my high school buddies and stuff, and then once I got out of high school, I kind of transitioned to joining a cover band that was traveling all around Ontario, and we kind of went on the road and did a whole road trek in like early '90s, and all like northern Ontario and some places like bars and stuff like that.
Well, just to get the timeline, what year was this approximately?
I would say that was 92 going into 93, right around, I think at the end of 93, something like that.
There you go.
So, yeah, it was pretty early 90s doing that. And then later on in the 90s, I was joined up with a different cover act that actually got down into the southern states. And we played all around Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. And we did the whole retro rock thing. I was a bass player at the time, too, with that. So basically, most of my cover bands that I grew up playing in, I was a bass player. And then when I left the sort of cover band thing where I was, doing that for a living and getting more into original and writing my own stuff pretty seriously, it was about the end of 1998 into 99. And that's when I really transitioned more full-time into playing guitar and writing a lot more seriously of my own material, and ended up recording albums throughout the, I guess from 1999 right through the 2000s, releasing a lot of my own music and stuff right up to now,
So 99, you came into your own, but previous to that, with the cover band, what kind of gigs were you playing? And you went in all over the South. I mean, that's a traveling band. I'm guessing you were a single guy at the time. This is just my guess, because being a traveling musician is hard on a family.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I was a single guy, and actually the band that I played with is still located in the southern states. They were called Us, or U.S, as they kind of put the little dot in there over the years. They had the Budweiser sponsorship and all that stuff. So back to your question, it was quite the time for about the year or so. I was traveling and touring and getting to go to places like Panama City Beach on spring break, and playing lots of frat houses and university stuff and clubs all over the Southeast, and lots of great stuff. Good times.
Man, I've been a traveling DJ. I did that in my 20s when I was a single man myself, and I guess those frat houses and some of those clubs could be pretty rough. Were there any gigs that you got into that you thought, well, maybe I'm not going to get out of this one alive, or you were fearful for your equipment or your safety? Do you remember any of those?
Well, not really so much in the States when I was traveling, but I mean, there's been a couple gigs up here close to home, actually. There used to be some festivals and some things we did in some smaller towns, and they used to be like a big thing, and everybody would come home, that weekend and celebrate these festivals, and like sometimes they would get pretty crazy, and people swinging off of rafters and like hanging on tires on ropes, from the ceiling and swinging off, those types of things going on, and big rows at the end of the night and stuff, and had to kind of watch your stage gear.
Well, forgive my my American United States naivete, but all the people north of the border are nice people. They're very calm. They're very docile people, except when they're at hockey games. That's what I've heard. When you're at a hockey game, all the rules go out the window. But you say in some of the gigs that you were in, kind of likened to a hockey game?
Well, there was a couple, not too many, but I mean, like I said, when you get some of the bigger crowds in a local arena sort of thing, and you're playing a show, it could have got rowdy, and there's a few things that have happened. Those are the days when you're a little younger and things get out of hand quicker.
Well, you're a kid growing up in Ottawa, East Coast. Are you closer to the water in Ottawa? Is there a beach over there? I'm not familiar with geography. Give me a little tour. Give me a little geographical a lesson of Ottawa.
Yeah, well, I'm actually south of Ottawa, about 35, 40-minute drive south. So I'm kind of closer to the St. Lawrence River, which borders New York State. So I'm like 20 minutes from Ogdensburg, New York, Messina, and Cornwall, Ontario, kind of border that. I'm kind of right in the middle of that. So it's like, 25 minutes to the border, 40 minutes to Ottawa. You got Toronto's 4 hours away. Montreal's 2 hours to the east. So, I'm kind of like in this little triangle area of the three major cities in eastern Ontario. So,
Well, I'm guessing you're naming all these places. Are these all places that you played when you were a wee lad, just starting off? And when you were in school, was it all music all the time? Was that what kept you out of trouble? Or was there any trouble with Cory M Coons? What kind of mischief did you get into? Or were you into sports or anything like that?
yeah, I was into sports more in public school or elementary school, I guess you would call it in the States. But I mean, getting into high school, I kind of didn't do the sports so much. Got into the music more heavily, and then that pretty much took most of my time was playing music and keeping myself busy, writing songs and that sort of thing, and traveling around and partying with the buddies and all that kind of stuff. And as far as when I got playing and traveling more, yeah, we played. Those three cities were pretty happening places. You can play Ottawa quite a bit. You could play. I didn't play Toronto a whole lot till a little later on, and there's only been a couple gigs I've played in the Toronto region. But Montreal, we played a few with some of the cover bands and stuff. But a lot of the more traveling and playing and touring was when I was in the Southeast. That kind of did a lot more of the, playing some of the more metropolitan type cities, I guess you would say.
Well, you're giving the people gems. I mean, if you want to keep the kids out of trouble, give them something to do. Maybe. Yes, I've heard stories of musicians that have wrecked rooms, but when you're on this level, I don't think you're going to wreck too many rooms. You're gonna keep yourself out of trouble and pretty much work on your music and it gives you something to do to put your efforts into rather than getting into mischief. I know I was just digging for a story about Cory M Coons and in the glory days and the younger times and what sports were you playing if you were playing sports?
Well, I played hockey and I played some ball, like softball here in Canada, and then I played just some flag football stuff in public school. I didn't get into tackle football or anything like that, but I always loved those. Hockey and football were always my two main sports. I loved hockey and baseball eventually too.
Yeah, why is it that every time I talk to a male from Canada, they played hockey at some point? They were involved in hockey at some point. Is that the law? Is that the law of the land?
Well, my dad played hockey so much, so growing up, he got me into it. And of course, when you're in the middle of the winter up here, there's nothing much else to do but get out and play hockey on the ice, and to keep yourself from being inside all day long, I guess.
All right. Well, hey, I'm from Miami, Florida. Did you ever get down that far south?
I've been to Tampa, and we've been to Orlando a few times. Pensacola, I remember playing in Pensacola. We just traveled there not too long ago for a vacation. My wife and daughter and I were down to Disney World in 2019, I think it was. And spent some time in Florida again. And my dad, when he was still alive, he's passed away now, but when he was alive, he had a place down in just between Dade City, Florida, and Zephyr Hills.
Great place to retire right there. That's the spot.
Yeah, a little retirement park that he stayed in, and we would go down there a few times of the year too, like in the winter time up here when it was warmer down there, obviously. And you'd get away for the winter months, and we'd kind of go down and check it out and stuff for a week or two here and there. And yeah, so
you mentioned
I always loved it. I mean,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you mentioned you're a family man, and for those that are listening to the audio version of this, you didn't get the video sensation that I get. There's a video version that you need to check out if you're not watching the video version. There was a bunny rabbit that made an appearance on the video version. They popped into the background there, and I was enjoying the little bunny rabbit that was hopping around. I like that. I like a family man. Do you think that it affected your music when you became a dad, when you became a husband and you became a dad? I'm guessing that it went in that order. Sometimes it goes in the opposite order. Sometimes you become a dad first, like me, and then you become a husband. Hey, it works out that way. But do you think it affects your music at all? The style and the way that you write. Yes, you had the Far Away song and you worked it, and now you've made it into a song that you and your daughter could share. But previous to that, when it was Far Away, the original song, was it a whole different vibe when it was just you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was like, what do you call it? Not puppy love, but, back in the days of innocence, I guess, when that song was originally written. Not about any one person in particular in high school, like one lady or anything like that, but just, just the innocence of it all back in the day. But I think, writing songs since you have children or a kid on your own, it just makes you so much more grounded. You have so much more stability, and it's very important to keep the balance, and that's a big balance to have in your life, I think, and it's always positive and, in the direction you want to go. So.
Yeah, I know I was discussing it with another musician earlier, recently. I wouldn't say earlier, but Ozzy Osbourne, when he had Kelly was born, he had that "Mama, I'm Coming Home" and "No More Tears," and it was a whole lot of it's subtle, references to having children. When back in the late '60s, early '70s, he was singing about demons and things that were coming out. What was your? I mean, were you singing about different things, not having a family, and then how did it change? Specifically, if you can remember, I would have never written a song like this before I had my child, before I was married. What song came about that was really inspired by your wife or your child?
Well, I have a song that was specifically dedicated to my daughter, and it was written when she was 2 years old, so it's called Eyes of Blue. So that was basically her song. So some of the songs that I write obviously are very personal ones, and then other songs are just, you're relating a good story and you're trying to touch home with what you're trying to convey to people, and hopefully they resonate with it. And so there's the song Eyes of Blue for my daughter, which, she loved to sing with me when she was kind of between that 2 and 4 age sort of time. She'd be singing along with me. And then, of course, I have a song previous to that was written for my parents because they're both passed on now. So, I had a song from 2014 called Remember Me, and it's basically a dedication to them. So, there's a lot of personal stuff that comes out when I write. But then I think it's changed over the years because I think, like I said, it's gotten more grounded in the writing, and just I kind of feel like I've kind of come full circle around, and it's just I write about the things that make you feel good and make you feel positive. I don't like to write too negative, Try to keep a positive outlook on a lot of the stuff that I write. But
yeah, I don't know about you, Cory, but the songs that seem to resonate best or have longest lasting, that last the longest, seem to be the ones that you write about true things. Because you're 15, you're 16. How much experience with love did you have? Were you that stud from 11 years old that one guy in middle school that could grow a mustache already, and had and for some reason he had hair on his chest? How did that happen? But was there? You start singing about things that you have no idea about. You're like, I do hear a lot of young kids on the street that are trying to break into whatever genre, the hip hop, I'm a rapper, and you're 11 years old. You have no idea what you're talking about. But that your life evolves, and I'm impressed that someone such as yourself can have a thought in your head or experience some part of life that maybe lots of other people have, but the one thing that you can do is you can take it that step further, put it to paper, record it, and then give it out to the world. I'm amazed every time I talk to somebody who can do that. And Cory M Coons, I'm amazed by you. So, but you had a song for your parents that had to feel good. You had a song for your daughter that she sang with you. What a wonderful thing that is. What else? What other things resonate with the people, and what else have you written about?
Oh, I can write about anything. This just depends. Like the singles that I released last year, the first one off the 33.3 EP that I had out was called Leavin', and that's basically that sense of longing and being away from your family, like you were talking about earlier. When you're young and single, and you're away. It's much easier, I guess, when you're young and single to be away playing music and stuff for a living, and But as you get older and then you have the family element, I mean, it becomes more difficult, and the challenges are so much harder when you're away. And that song Leavin' was about, loneliness and the experience of being away and traveling and the music man on the road sort of thing. And so that's one of the elements. And then with a song like Good Times Gone, that kind of more touches on current times, and the state of being now with quality of life versus quantity, how much quality you get out of life instead of worrying about, the length of everything and sort of thing, and living for now sort of thing too. And, reflecting on days gone by at the same time, and a little bit of spiritual stuff in there.
Yeah, Good Times Gone. It's a fine ditty, by the way. In case you haven't listened to it, my dear listener, you go over to his YouTube page, his iTunes page, and you pop that thing on there. Look up Cory M Coons, and it's great because your website pops up right away. So whoever's doing your website has some good SEO, which I learned a long time ago. You have to have the right keywords to get the right hits. But yeah, if you look up Cory M Coons, you're going to find your website, and that's going to lead you to the YouTube page and the other pages where you can listen to your music. And that, man, the Good Time Gone is it was something you wrote it 9 months ago or so. And is it about COVID-19? Is it about what we've been going through with the quarantine and being stuck inside? Or was it something that happened before that?
No, it was written before. I think it just kind of touches on that sort of element of the times. But no, it wasn't written specifically about that. It's more of a spiritual thing, and it's got little elements of Billy Graham sort of feel in there. So a couple lines that kind of touch on things, and just kind of spiritual, I think, in general. I've kind of become a little more, the stylistic, or the style of stuff I'm writing, I think, is a little more Americana, roots rock sort of feel with, little bits of country sprinkled in here. And with the spiritual element, I mean, it's kind of an important thing to have for me. So I think that's kind of where I'm at, so.
Yeah, I like that you don't put yourself in a box. You're not country, you're not rock, you're not folk. You're a mixture of all those things. The country came from Mom. Yeah. She's the one that exposed you to the greats, Johnny Cash and what have you. And then you went, I guess you got into the Motley Crue and the Poison and the Twisted Sister and all that in the 80s. Hey, I'm a child of the 80s myself. Class of 86 rules, And all the stuff that I listened to in the back of the bus is now classic rock. Yeah, I'm getting old. And it happens. It happens. But
I hear you, brother.
You change with the times, and the times change you. And I'm, I guess I'm just impressed that you've rolled through that. But from 92 to 99, you were in a cover band. How much were you doing covers, and how much were you doing original tunes before 99 when you put out that first record as Cory M Coons?
Well, pretty well. It was mostly cover songs with the bands that we were playing, because you're out playing and you're making money and you're playing bars and clubs and they're hiring you, to entertain the night. So you got to play the popular music. That's what you do, right? And you get people out and dancing and all that sort of thing. And you could slip in an original here and there if the bands were creating something. There was one or two here and there with the groups that I had, but that wasn't the main focus, because they were there to do a job. The agents that were booking and stuff, it was all about, you're a retro cover band. You're out there to do your job, right, for the people coming to have a good time. So it becomes different. And when you start writing your own songs, it's a whole new thing in that you're putting yourself on the line. You're putting yourself out there for all the criticism that you need to be open to from everybody coming at you. And you got to basically roll with the punches. You're going to maybe have a song somebody likes, and then you're going to have something that somebody can't stand it. They hate it or something. It's like you're just open to all the criticism at the same time. So it takes... And then transitioning from a bass player, harmony singer, going to a lead vocalist, and where you have to all of a sudden become the front person of the band, and you're interacting with the crowd, right? So that all changes. It's a whole new ballgame.
Absolutely, man. And, were you having a good time playing other people's songs as opposed to, and I've been to a lot of local bands, and please, my loyal listener, support your local artist, go to a show, throw a couple bucks in the tip jar, and buy some merch afterwards. That's very important, and it makes them have the drive. And I'm guessing it would make you have the drive as a musician if somebody meets you at the merch table and says, that was a great show, I want to buy this hat, I want to buy this t-shirt, I want to buy this sticker, I want to buy this CD. How good does that feel? Is that something that you do?
Well, I always have CDs at any show I do. I did have shirts and stuff at one point. I don't do a lot of the merchandise so much lately, but mostly CDs, and it's always a good feeling, even if you have one or two people that you reach and they come and buy a CD from you or something at the end of the night, right? It's just that feeling. You're touching home with somebody, and they're, like you said, it's resonating with somebody. It's taking them somewhere that they've heard, and that's an amazing feeling. I mean, that's what it's all about. As a songwriter, you're really trying to get that idea conveyed across and bring somebody somewhere, or have them have a memory of somewhere where they were when they heard your song. Like, you listen to people say, "Oh, this is where I was when I heard Bon Jovi Living on a Prayer," right? Well, then you think, okay, well, if somebody can remember where they were, oh, that's where I was when I first heard your song, man, and it stayed with me all these years. Like, that's such a cool thing,
Yeah. And ultimate is, I use this as my first dance with my bride. Oh,
Yeah.
Or this was the song that I wanted to hear on my birthday, or this is the song that I played for my father at his funeral. Oh, yeah. My.
Somebody requests that you play your song for their wedding and do it live. Like, that's a great feeling too,
Absolutely, man. But, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think I asked and I kind of brushed over it. How did you feel playing other people's songs? Were you having a good time, at least, touring it down around the South? And you're giving the people gems. The musicians think that they always have to write their own songs. You could make a pretty decent living as a party band playing other people's songs. You get about 200 songs in your repertoire, enough party songs, that a good mix that people can yell out something, and hey, if you don't know it, you could fake it, But did you have fun doing that?
I had a blast. I mean, for that year that I spent in the Southeast traveling and playing bass and playing the cover songs, I mean, was this all the stuff that I grew up with too when I was playing with those guys, it was the Bon Jovi and the Motley Crue, and and then some of the mellower stuff, and just they used to do like a Grease medley and all this kind of thing, and put the wigs on and all this stuff, and have a funk section of the night, and these guys, they were really had the act honed in, and that was great times and good friends at the time, and I think it was just a lot of fun. And being single, it was the time to do it. So,
well, that's cool, and I'm glad you gave credit where credit is due. That's us, U.S. Now, I find it hard. I've talked to other musicians that put little dots in their name, and when I play them on the RadioWhat.com, it tweets them out, and for some reason it wants to change it into a URL, and it really it messes up the link that I put out there. But the little dot these days, people wouldn't have thought maybe, but pre-internet that it would have affected things so much. But yeah, for those new musicians, don't put a dot in your name. Don't do it. Just it's a little advice. But I digress.
These were the
What's that?
These were the days pre-internet, I think, when that came along.
Little bit, because I know it was getting strong. I think I made my first website back in the 90s, mid to late 90s. I made my own website. Boy, that thing was terrible. GIFs everywhere. Little dancing guys. Hey, there was a dancing baby in the corner for some reason. And here, I'm trying to have people hire me out to be their entertainment. But, 99... All right, that was the turning point. Where did you go, and how many songs did you have in your pocket that you wanted to record, and who recorded that record for you? Tell us about 99.
Well, leading up to 99, when the actual album first came out, the name of the project was actually Tycoons, which is sort of a play on my last name, but it was a group sort of concept that I always had, like a Bon Jovi sort of thing, but Tycoons, and it was molded into a band, and it was meant to be an original project. But leading up to that, it was like probably 96 when I started writing some songs, and I ended up using a couple songs that I first recorded sort of as my resume to land the job in the band Us. So they got to hear what I could do as far as singing and playing bass and stuff, and that was kind of my resume to get in. And I kept those songs after I left the band at the end of 98, 99. And by that point I had I think it was about 8 or 9 songs. I think the first album that came out was 9 songs on it. It was called Tycoons, and it came out late '99. And that was like my rock band project. So that was very melodic rock, like a Bon Jovi meets like Goo Goo Dolls and that sort of flavor, REO Speedwagon. And so then that's what I focused on for about the first half of the new millennium at that time, from 2000 right through to about 2007, 2008 maybe. And that was my band out playing the St. Lawrence Seaway Valley here in Ontario, playing mostly covers, because what happens is you get out there trying to play original stuff, and then when you want to do it for a living, well, you're not making enough money, because you're not playing enough places that do the original thing to make enough money, unless you're backed by a record label or something. And I never was. It was always independent. So we'd play the covers, and then Tycoons got known as like a classic rock retro cover band, with a couple of originals. So, in that way, it just kind of turned not the direction I really wanted it to go, but it was still popular. So you were making money, but. So then from 2004 was when I first did my first independent recording as my own, like Cory M Coons, or Cory Mervyn Coons, which is my full name. In 2004, my first full solo record came out. And from there on, it's always been me writing under my own name and releasing music. So now it's an element of everything. Like you said, it's a mixture of rock, it's country, it's folk rock, it's roots rock, Americana, it's a little bit of country, whatever.
Yeah, it's all the little tastes that you've gotten over the years. Hey, Mom,
yeah.
I give it up to your mom for introducing you to country. And then, because as a kid, you're going to be listening to whatever your friends are listening to. So you mix all that together, and it becomes Cory M Coons. That's what started as Tycoons, and now ultimately becomes Cory M Coons. And who knows where it goes from here. Now, what's funny is I was watching, I guess it was an SNL, and there might have been a skit where Bon Jovi was on. He might have been hosting that, and he was talking to his guitarist. Says, "Hey, let's call it Bon Jovi, for the first 5 years and see how it goes." And that was kind of a joke. But here you're calling your band kind of a play on your name. Now, is it the same guys that you were working with back then in '99 that you're working with now? Is it the same group, same lineup?
Well, I've kind of bounced back and forth and used some of the same guys for different things over the years. I mean, my good friend Mark from Cornwall, who's my lead guitar player on my last 2 solo albums, he was actually the original lead guitar player on the first Tycoons album. And, of course, I take care of all the acoustic rhythms and some of the electric rhythms and stuff. And I do a solo or 2 on my own, here and there on a song or 2. But Mark's always been, such an amazing lead player and melodic playing. So the last 2 studio projects that I did from, I guess, was 2018 when the Long Road Home album came out. We did that one in Vancouver, Washington. That was for the bulk of it was tracked there, and then kind of came back to Cornwall where he is, and we tracked things and sent things back and forth with Ron Nevison, who's like a legendary rock producer that I've wanted to work with for many years, and finally got the opportunity to do 2 albums with him, 1 EP and 1 album with him. And so we did that one with Mark, and then, of course, the new EP last year, we did that one with Mark as well, and we went to Nashville and with another buddy of mine who has a studio there, Ben Travis, and we did that in Nashville, recorded some songs there.
Well, I'm glad that you give credit where credit is due. It's a sign of a good musician and someone who works well with others, not too much of a prima donna. To recognize, hey, my guitar playing is good, but that guy can really add that extra oomph that it needs for, maybe the lead, or maybe a little solo. It's good that you work well with others. And how the Tycoon project, 9 songs out there, available still on Apple and all that other thing?
Well, it's kind of been amalgamated into an album I put out in 2010 originally, but then I re-released it on MTS Records, which is my independent label that I work with Michael Stover. And we re-released that about 1.5 years, 2 years ago again. It's called Retrospective, and it's like 20 songs of like my own solo plus some Tycoon songs thrown in. So you get the majority of those first. I did 2 Tycoons releases, one in '99 and then again one in 2007, I believe. That second one came out. So there's a few songs off of each one of those. So basically everything except for 1 or 2 songs I think you can still get on the Retrospective from the early Tycoons days. But I do still have CDs kicking around here that, if you went to my website, I don't think there's a link to buy one, but you could always message, like, myself or my webmaster, and we could always send somebody out a CD. I still have some in print, so.
Good to know. That's one of the things that I miss about albums and even CDs. Albums were great because it was, a big 10-inch poster that you had with liner notes and little ideas and tidbits about the artist. And, this song was written back then with, just things that you would see on an MTV Storyteller edition, where Cory M Coons up there with his guitar, maybe a little acoustic background, somebody on a little maybe a box, a cajera, a cajon, I guess is what it's called. Just somebody but all acoustic, and then pretty much you're just telling stories, such as now, about where those songs came from, what feeling you were trying to put forth in those songs. I enjoy that, man, because that gives me fodder as a radio DJ. Before I play this song, hey, Cory M Coons wrote this for his daughter, and she used to sing it with him. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. That's stuff you want to hear on the radio. So all that fodder, and we used to get that on the liner notes. And do you have that on artwork on your CD and liner notes as well?
I mean, it used to be such an event back in the day, right? When music came out, it was a big thing. When the record got released, you'd check out the album or the cassette, whatever it was, and then it became CDs. And you always wanted to go and check out the liner notes and all the artwork and the lyrics of the songs and see what the song was about. But nowadays it's so different. But I actually have the last two albums that they're available on vinyl again, because I have a distributor that I can get out of. Where is it? Nevada, I believe it is, that I can get to print single albums, one at a time if somebody wants like a one-off order.
That's fantastic, man. One of the things I did when I was a kid, I was a little baby DJ back in '86, and even before that, back in high school, I was always the DJ for the house parties and such. And there was a little place on the corner. There was a movie theater back here. There was a video game parlor here, and there was a record store right here. And let me tell you, when I pulled up, even if I was going to the video game parlor or the movie theater, that record store owner would run out and say, "Dan, I got the new Madonna. Dan, I got the new," because he saw me coming. He knew I had money in my pocket, and that money was going to go to records. And I wanted to buy one of those records, and you look at it, maybe he has a sample, he puts it on the platter there on the turntable, lets you take a listen, puts it up on the house speakers. Oh, it was an event. You're right. I miss those days, but now, I'm going to get older right now. I'm going to say these kids today will never know the pleasure of going to a record store and listening to a record. Because now it's all in their head. Do you think that separates us more? Because I used to go with my friends to the record store and listen to records. Do you think that Spotify and the way the record industry is going now, it's all in somebody's headphones? It's not being shared with anybody.
Well, most definitely. I mean, it's so disposable, right? I mean, you have kids that are listening to something for 30 seconds. If they don't like it, bam, it's gone. On to the next thing. If you don't hit somebody, with something on Spotify within the first 30 seconds to a minute, you don't keep them engaged. I mean, they're going to move on, right? There's no hype to go buy it for the like you said, the liner notes or the great artwork or anything like that. It's all, let's just listen to something, on Spotify and add it to my playlist. Let's get the playlist happening, and the people are searching through thousands of songs every day to put their playlists together now. I mean, it's crazy, when you think about how it's changed.
Yeah, and all you can do as an artist is, try to have people, hey, please add this to your playlist. Consider it. Let it play for a million times so I can get my $12.
Exactly.
Thank you, Spotify, for my $12. For a million plays. I know I'm being a little out there, but I think it is a lot of plays, and I can't remember. I keep trying to quote who it was. I think it was Peter Frampton, maybe, with "Baby I Love Your Way." It had 50 million hits, and he got $1,200.
Yeah.
Yay. I mean, how are people making
crazy.
money in the music business now? Is it all touring? Is it all live? Do you have to do live as opposed to selling records?
Well, I think it has to be. I mean, the more shows you can play, I think it's better, because at least you can sell physical merchandise at shows too, you know? Whereas online or not playing shows, you're just dealing with people getting the stuff online or through Spotify or whatever it is. But I think if you're playing shows, at least you have the chance to be paid for your show, number one, and then you have the chance of selling some merchandise at the same time. So, you know, and obviously with the way it's been the last year, you know, that's not happening so much either. So.
Yeah, I remember the first couple of months, March, April, May. I don't think I had a gig for 2 months. You know, and you start burning through your savings. So, yeah, for the people that are listening 20 years in the future, COVID-19 pandemic is going on right now. We're starting to get out of it, though. We're creeping out. There's treatments. There's vaccines. So, so that the last year was probably a pain in the butt for you as well as anyone else. But, you know what, I think of artists before who used to sell millions of records. That was mailbox money. You know, you did your job, you went to the studio, you put the effort into it, you sweat for, you know, however many days, months, or even years to put this record together. It was a hit, it was a sensation, and now you got mailbox money. You know, the residuals keep coming and keep coming. Now you're having to work, and, you know, it's like back in the 60s. I heard that there were guys that would work 2-3 shows a day and come out with nothing. And you know, the record companies were making all the money, but now you're independent. You're making all the money for the record sales, but it's still nothing because the sales are not there anymore. What? How are you making it as an artist?
Well, if you think about it, in some ways, even the bands that were signed to labels in the heyday of music, like in the 80s or even into the 90s, I mean, you think about that, though, the record companies basically paid for all the recording, though, up front. So really, when anything did get made on the back end, it probably went all back to the record company at the same time. So even a lot of those bands, when you think about it in the day, weren't making really that much money, because they would have had an advance to record their albums, but then that all had to be paid back. So if you didn't hit or whatever, you didn't sell, you know, then you're basically owing your record company. So at least today, when you think about it in a positive light, if you're independent, like I am, everything that I do comes out of my own pocket. You know, I'm not funded by a record company, or, I mean, I work with an independent record label, but, you know, they don't fund my music. I fund everything myself. So, I mean, everything you're making back, at least you're getting to keep that, with the exception of whatever else you put out into marketing or into a video or something, you know, or any of the money that you make from shows. It's not going back to pay off a record label. At least that's one positive thing about it, because at the other end of the spectrum, you're not making anything from Spotify. So, I mean, you know.
Yeah. No, I get you completely. And, you know, as a DJ, it used to be 2 turntables and a microphone. Now I have to be the MC.
Yeah.
Now I have to be the art director. Now I have to be the social media. Now I have to be the promoter. Now I have to be the... And the same thing with an independent artist. You have that much more work. But if you love what you do, yes, positive. Be positive. If you love what you do,
yeah,
you want to promote it. You want to get on a podcast and talk about, you know, the struggle that you had on the way up, and now, hey, you're in a good place. You know, you got a family. You're doing what you want to do. Do you still have a day job that affords you insurance, or are you able to do music full time?
Well, I've been teaching guitar for probably the past, close to 20 years probably too. So I've always been a freelance guitar teacher, and then I've taught with a friend of mine about a music school for the last 5 years, and he's also another good friend of mine from high school that I've kept in touch with, and he's my cajon player for my acoustic shows, and he's been my drummer for Tycoons, and he's been my drummer on some solo stuff, and over the years played live shows with me. And so my good friend Kevin, who runs a music school not too far from where I am, and so I teach guitar, and over the years there's been other jobs that I've done, and my family ran a business, a golf course locally, which before it got sold, it was a family thing, and then my wife still works for the same place, but it's no longer run by family. So, but I mean, there's always things you got to do to keep making money and keep putting into your passion. So
that's so funny that I mentioned cajon earlier, and here you have a cajon player. Give a shout out to the guy.
Yeah,
he's helping you out.
Kevin Heyman. Yeah, my good friend Kevin Heyman.
Kevin Heyman, excellent, man. Always give credit where credit is due. I love it. The people that help you out. What's the current lineup of the Cory M Coons band? And is that the name of the band? Is it Cory M Coons? And is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
pretty
ever?
Much it's just I book under my own name, Cory M Coons, and if it's a full 4-piece band, it's the Cory M Coons band. And like I said, my friend Mark Muir from Cornwall has been my guitar player for the last couple of years, and Kevin Naiman on the cajon and sometimes drums if we have a full band show. He's been working with me lately, and I have some different guys that I've played with over the years, like I said. But it just depends on what the budgets are for the show and what you're having play with you. If it's a 4-piece band or if you have to do it as acoustic or a duo or whatever it is, so we make do with what we have to do.
Now, 96, you were making demos. Is that you in your own bedroom, recording into a little cassette player? Or how were you making demos?
Yeah, back in those days, I would have been doing it on a 4-track Fostex or a Tascam and doing demos. And then I went to a studio in Ottawa to record the first Tycoons album. It was called Distortion Studios. And a friend of mine from back in the day who was also another drummer, Peter Gilroy, produced the first Tycoons album for me. And he used to work with, if I remember, Alanis Morissette. Before she became Alanis Morissette, she was just Alanis, and she had a pop career out of Ottawa. She was like a pop sort of vixen type girl when she was young, and she actually recorded a lot of stuff out of Distortion Studios in the 90s and stuff.
Well, recording
so that's where the first one was done.
Recording at Distortion Studios were you able to put all your input into the record, or was he helping you to fine tune a little bit? Was it a collaboration? When you go to a recording studio, I always find that if you have a good engineer, they have a discerning ear and they can kind of tweak things for you. Did you accept accept direction from your engineer, or was it all you?
Well, it was mostly me. Most of the stuff that I have written over the years has been mostly myself arranging it, and I'm always open to the ideas. Now, Peter at the time was an engineer, so I mean, if you're talking producer versus engineer, an engineer is someone who's basically kind of controlling everything as far as the soundboard and doing the mixing and stuff, and then you have a producer who's kind of like when I worked with Ron Nevison. I mean, if you Google Ron Nevison, I mean, the man is. I'm sure you're familiar with Ron. He's produced anything that you've heard on classic rock radio for the last 40 years. He's probably produced some of it, or majority of it.
Yeah, I actually saw that little video that you did with him at the LA Music Awards back in 2014. That was a fun little tidbit interview. That I think the girl was a little bit out of her element, but certainly fun to watch though. But it was nice to see him, and I looked him up a little bit, and I see that man's got some street cred.
So when you're working with someone like Ron, I mean, you're going to take some insight, you're going to take some direction, but he was never one to change. He's never changed the whole arrangements of songs. I mean, he just basically wants the songwriter to shine through the songs and the music. You're the focus, the vocalist, you're the focal point of the song. So I mean, he was my dream producer to work with, and I always wanted to, and I got the chance starting in 2014 with the Share a Little Time EP. Got to do that in LA and San Francisco, and then later that year got to go back to LA to the LA Music Awards because he ended up getting an award for the LA Music Awards for Studio Album of the Year for that EP. And then getting back and working with Ron again in 2018. He's just one of those producers. It's like, for vocals, I mean, he just gets the best. He gets the best. Doesn't take anything less than that, and that's the most important thing,
Well, I mean, did he invent the quadrophenia sound? That was huge back then. I remember, when the Who came out, and let me tell you, the Who is probably, well, I don't say probably, it's the loudest concert I ever went to back in, it had to be 85, somewhere between 85 and 87, because I know it was at the Hollywood Sportatorium in Hollywood, Florida, and it was over 700 decibels. My ears were ringing for the next couple of days. Oh, my goodness. That man had some street cred, and working with him had to expound on what you were thinking Cory M Coons, the sound is. Did he make it better? Because you said, I have this idea. Did he make it bigger?
Yeah, I mean, well, just the influences alone, like I resonate with him and so much of the stuff he's produced over the years. You know, you go back to Bad Company and I mean, he even did some stuff with Led Zeppelin, and he did Ozzy, Ultimate Sin, and you're talking like Night Ranger and Survivor and all these melodic rock bands over the years, and Heart, and Kiss, and like all this stuff that I grew up and just, you know, that's kind of the whole direction that I was hearing a lot of my stuff, obviously with other outside influences here and there as well, which gives it a unique sort of twist. But just working with that sort of caliber of a producer that's gonna, like I said, you know, get the best out of you and take you to the next level, and not don't take second best. So he's just amazing. He's got a great ear. Always had a big drum sound on all of his stuff, and always vocals. You know,
well,
vocals
I mean,
were big.
Yeah, it's good that you had him. Cory M Coons put through that filter, came up with a great product. You have a great product, and you're putting it out to the world. And
Thank you.
It's so hard now with social media. That's how you're judged. How many hits do you have? How many friends do you have? How many followers do you have? You know, that has to be the basis for people even wanting to look you up. I say to the people, give Cory M Coons a chance. Take a listen. You know, because if you haven't heard him yet, you need to hear him, right? Am I right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's always been about the music. You know, there's a lot of people out there. You're one in like millions of people swimming around on the internet and on social media, like you say. So, you know, it's all about good music to me, writing a good song. And I'd rather connect with people on a level that you can resonate with if it's not as many people that have, like you said, like, you know, a million followers of fake people that you don't even, you know, don't really converse with or whatever, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously you have a website out there, CoryMCoons.com. That's the place you ought to be to find out more about this cool dude that's hanging out with me, probably for the last hour or so. And I appreciate you so much for taking the time to be on and tell a little bit about your story. Any other shout outs you want to give to the people as we wind this thing down?
Well, thank you so much to all your listeners, and thank you, Dan, for having me on the show. It's been great. Excuse me. I've been looking forward to talking with you, and this has been very, very cool. And I want to thank Michael Stover from MTS Records too, and MTS Management Group, who I worked with for the last 3 to 4 years and promoting the stuff. He's done a great job for me and like lots of other independent artists all around the world. So, and all the guys that, like I said, that I've worked with over the years, you know, some of the bigger names like Ron Davison, and guys from LA and Nashville, and my good friends around here in Eastern Ontario, all my friends and fans and family. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, and big ups to your wife and daughter that put up with you leaving for maybe days, maybe weeks, maybe months at a time. Are you still touring? Is that still the plan coming up in the future of Cory M Coons?
We're hoping we can do more stuff, family excursions, where we could kind of combine that with playing some music and doing some vacations at the same time. So hopefully we, you know, in the next year we get a little more back to normal. We can get back to doing some of that a little more regularly. So
yeah, I was kind of curious when you were doing your tours down south. Was it all hotels or was it tour buses? What was the travel arrangements on that?
Well, we had a tour bus, but it was more like a school bus remodeled type of thing, you know, a pretty cool one. They had a white and black bus sort of thing, and it was a pretty souped up sort of big long school bus. We would stay in some hotels, and we'd had some. They had a lot of contacts down there that they would have people. We could stay at houses and different things and different accommodations. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, couch surfing's pretty fun. You know, when you're in your 20s, when you're footloose and fancy free, you know. But then you start to adult. You start to become an adult, and you go, yeah, maybe I don't want to couch surf anymore. Maybe I should get a hotel. Maybe I should get a real job. But this is a real job, you know. You pour your love, you pour your effort into it, and you teach the next generation with your guitar lessons. Oh, what was the school again that you teach at?
The school that I had been teaching at was my friend Kevin's school. It's called Rock My House Music Center. And but now I'm just teaching at home. I'm doing a few students that I have come in and a little more laid back, which I did for a long time prior to working with Kevin at the school too. So.
Well, very good. Get your lessons from Cory M Coons. You'll be the next generation of rock star. Excellent. How do you want? Do you have any gigs coming up real soon that people can maybe get involved in, or anything internet-wise? People are doing a lot of virtual stuff too.
Yeah, I do have one acoustic show coming up. It's still booked for April the 17th, and it's excuse me, it's at a little bistro. It's an acoustic gig at the South Branch Bistro in Kempville, Ontario, which is like half an hour from where I live. So it's a little local acoustic venue and bistro, and you can get some great food and have a beverage and watch some cool songs and listen to some cool music.
Is that what's the setup on that? Is that you with the guitar, or do you have accompaniment as well? Somebody else?
It'll be me on acoustic. Yeah, me on acoustic guitar, and I'm bringing a friend of mine for that particular show. I'm bringing another guitar player with me, my friend Bob Windsor, and then Kevin might come out and do some cajon at the same time. So we might end up being a trio for a set too. So
well, that sounds like a nice full sound, man. The people can get a hold of you on CoryMCoons.com. Any place else that you want them to connect with you or find you on your social medias are all listed there. Any place else? How do they book you anyway?
You can get access to all my social media from the website. It's all there: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Mostly Facebook for me, and then Instagram once in a while. YouTube links are all there. Everything. There's also the section at the website for the physical CDs. If you want to order something up, or an LP on vinyl or anything, you can check it out there. And CoryMCoons.com. It's all there.
Very cool. I don't want this to be the last time that we chit-chat as things progress. I want to hear more about you, Cory M Coons. So you're invited maybe next year or maybe 6 months down the line. Whenever something's happening that you want to promote, that'd be great. But I usually finish these things off with last words for the people. This could be, words to live by, something you heard a long time ago. Maybe a family member gave you this thought, or maybe a mantra you wake up with every morning, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Cory M Coons, last words for the people.
Well, something I like to say is don't let your music die inside of you. So get that out there and get what you want to say, and don't take second best for what you want to achieve in your life.
Well, there you have it, party people. Cory M Coons. Look him up on CoryMCoons.com. You'll find his links to his Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, Amazon. You can find out where his next shows are. Yeah, if you get a chance, get to that bistro and go see. Well, at least Cory and the guitar will be there, but maybe his friend will be there with another guitar. Then maybe another guy with a cone. I think it's going to be a good show. I hope he gets to tour again around the South, but maybe I missed that boat. He's a family man now. Keep it closer to home. If he can make a living staying close to home, where he could be home every night or at least every other night, more power to you. Yes, you could make that good music in Ontario, and then maybe take a trip to Nashville and make some music in the Music City. I've talked to a lot of musicians, and Nashville is the place you ought to be. I mean, I guess California's got its own place as well, but Nashville, that's Music City, man. It seems like all the greats, they just kind of hang out there. You can walk down, Broadway in Nashville, Broadway Street, and see a bunch of great musicians and greats. I can only say they're greats because they've gotten to that level. So yeah, but Ontario and then just south of Ontario. I keep saying Ontario. He's just south of Ontario, but in that area. That's fantastic, man, and I loved it. It was good talking to Cory M Coons. I look forward to keeping up with you as time progresses. Well, that's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. Now, I'm turning my attention to you, my loyal listener. If you would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.